Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. The ASEAN region has a significant relationship with China, which also has a separate bilateral relations with each of the 10 members of the ASEAN region. Now, what is the future of ASEAN-China relations? What will be the forecast for this, especially with the upcoming ASEAN integration next year? Especially to discuss this, ASEAN in Focus has interviewed foreign relations expert and former Ambassador Apolinario June Lozada Jr. Our resident ASEAN resource person, Carlos Tabunda Jr., has this exclusive interview with him. Let's watch this.
Good afternoon again, Ambassador Lozada. Thank you for gracing our show once more.
Okay, good afternoon. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
Yesterday we talked more about the Philippines and China relations. Now, today we're going to talk more of the ASEAN-China relations. So, first question, what is the attitude, what is the sentiment of the other ASEAN member countries towards China right now?
Are you saying that we look at ASEAN-China now?
Yes.
With an understanding, as a background, I would like to be clarified whether we speak or we look at them now as ASEAN, as one, or ASEAN 10, so as one. That's a little, there are quite a number of difficult situations that we have to look into in this. Because we have to look at and study carefully the individual ASEAN countries' relations with China prior to joining ASEAN. Even when they were members of ASEAN already, there's still existed strong historical cooperation and other ties with China. So these are found in their priority policies, foreign policies towards China. You can speak of Myanmar, for example. Vietnam.
These countries share border with China.
Yeah, and of course they had long historical ties with. Now, the most important question that we should really address is, have they really given up their priorities of China over ASEAN?
Yes.
So, which one prevails? The ASEAN policy as one, or the individual countries' bilateral relations? I would rather look at the whole issue on a bilateral basis. There are a lot of issues maybe that ASEAN can pass. They will support it. But bilaterally, I don't think there is really much change that will happen. After all, when we become an integrated ASEAN, it can really be one country, but 10 subdivisions. And each of the subdivision has the independence in their policies with regards to the relations with other states outside of ASEAN.
So frankly, do you foresee that happening? I mean, the 10 ASEAN countries really merging as one economic, socio-political bloc, and then they relate as one with China. Is that really possible?
It is possible, but not immediate.
Okay.
I think that the model, since ASEAN 10, ASEAN as one, has really been patterned after the EU.
Yes.
I think we should really start looking at EU also now.
And it took EU 50 years before they reached this stage of
no, it's unfortunate, but the EU is not even that close to each other now. There are a lot of problems happening now. So you call it United Europe, but what happens to the development of each country in the United Europe is really a big problem to them now. So can cite only 1, 2, or 3 countries that are really doing very well. Of course, Germany leads the pack with France and UK. But how about countries like Portugal, Greece, Athens, even Italy, Spain? In the Philippines, in ASEAN, that would also be one major stumbling block. For the next couple of years, the way I look at it, maybe 5 to 6 years, that would still really be the stumbling block, a rough road to total integrated ASEAN
Bridging
that
the
we have to get over with.
Yeah, bridging the economic
Yeah.
gap. Among
Yes,
the different
yes,
nations.
yes, yes. Like, Singapore, it has only about how many, what is the population?
3 million?
It's about 3 or 4 million. Has a very high standard, very high economic development. Malaysia is doing very well, but Malaysia is about 25, 27 million. But poor Indonesia and the Philippines, for example, we are quite down below. We will become really a problem to the whole pack because many of our people don't have work to do
Yes,
in the Philippines. Now, since it's an open economy, how many of the Filipinos will go to all of these countries? Of course, they will start really looking at their own way of course, we can contribute to them. But how about the 250 million Indonesians? 50 million of them would go to the Philippines and other ASEAN. That's already, it's really, quite a heavy workload for our policymakers to look into. So right now, I'm not really clear yet on the priorities of integration. What are the projects that should really be immediately implemented on the ground? I have not come across any decision done by the senior officials of the 10 that says, okay, is it going to concentrate on the political or the economic?
Actually, what we see right now in the landscape is most of the activities are being conducted towards the attainment of the ASEAN economic community. And among others, you were talking about the labor movement. One of the priorities is establishing the ASEAN qualifications framework, which will lead to the development of mutual recognition agreement among the 10 countries. But of course, the problem would be, as you said, you have Indonesia, the Philippines, big populations, and they would be looking for jobs, and hopefully they will be qualified to work in, for example, Singapore and Brunei. So that would pose, as you said, a very big problem for the integration.
Yeah, the economic part of it is really the most difficult, very difficult to implement. But I hope that by now, since ASEAN is an economic group, our policymakers have already sort of clearly identified that they are workable and implementable in the Philippines as well as in other countries. If the political aspect is faster, is easier, so you can have a parliament. Again, if you have an ASEAN parliament where maybe in Vietnam,
Indonesia right now, in Jakarta.
yeah, but they can always have the parliament somewhere distributed in different capitals, so maybe do it in Baguio, whatever. The decision, you will have to start looking at the protocolar issues here also, which somehow will give us some problems. But I'm sure the next 2 or 3 years after we have decided to be an integrated region, I think we would really be able to thresh out issues. But multilateral relations of ASEAN, I think would be faster for us, as long as each member country should really have a specific assignment on what to do and decide for the 9. Philippines can decide for the other 9 on certain issues. It's again the need for our leaders to zero in on their expertise and what they can really see as good things for our people.
Where do you see China in all of this? It is now the biggest economy in the world now, and it's a next door neighbor to the ASEAN.
On the economic aspect, I see China as the next door neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a
somebody we
different
can
influence.
somebody we can hang on.
Okay.
And you say, how about the United States? That's
Yes.
a political issue if you start looking at it. Because ASEAN would realize that the distance is just really so tempting for ASEAN entrepreneurs and trading companies
To really work with.
to really work with China.
Yeah.
After all, what is in the United States or Europe that you cannot find in China? China has copied already everything from
And,
those regions.
There's been historical
Yeah.
ties between.
But in terms of political issues, I think because of the way we were brought in and how we really evolved into a kind of an economy, political economy that we are now, tendency of ASEAN as one should really be Western, still Western, because, well, we still look at the U.S. as number one in political development. When we speak of political development, it's really partnered more on political security also. So.
Okay, going to another topic, going to another concern. What do you see is the prospect of expansion of ASEAN? Because we have at least two countries who are, that are within the geographically within the region, but are not members of ASEAN. You have Papua New Guinea.
Is Timor-Leste,
Papua New Guinea,
yeah.
and of course you have our richer neighbors down under, Australia and New Zealand. So how do you look at it?
How I wish that we can really start considering already the application of Timor-Leste as part of ASEAN. That's our window to the south. And then, of course, after that, we should really start looking at Papua New Guinea. That would also help Indonesia solve its problems with
Yes.
Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
But then we should not only stop there. Why do we start really considering also
Australia.
inviting Australia and New Zealand to
As
be
full-fledged
a full-fledged member of ASEAN?
Would
That
that
would
be-
make it one
Yeah.
one
One stretch.
stretch of very economically and politically strong ASEAN. Now, so what you say? Is Australia Asia and New Zealand Asia? Sad to say yes.
Okay.
Except that, of course, their people are like
Mostly whites.
Western
yeah.
Caucasians. They came from Europe. But so what? That's a different country already. But it, of course, it depends on the political policies of Australia and New Zealand. From informal consultations I've made, I think that they are quite interested. They're open to the idea of joining ASEAN.
Remember Seattle, we had
Yeah, and Seattle, for example, we had Australia and New Zealand there. But of course, we also had France and the US. So, but that was a military association. But for economic association, when you start pulling Australia into the picture, then it will really become an economic political integration. Yeah. And I don't know really how the US and China would view that. Because the only thing that I start getting scared of is if we start considering Australia and New Zealand be part of ASEAN, what happens, you go up north and then you will have Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan.
and that would really,
So-
if you get Taiwan, that will create a problem with China.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that would really mean say, are we going to have really an APEC version
Yes.
of ASEAN or no? But these are things that as we go on we should start really thinking.
You can never tell, yeah.
Yeah, can
how
never.
history will
Yeah,
develop.
yeah. Like, can you say China? China would like us to join. So say, okay, we would just really have one world now. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador.
Yeah, thank you very much. And
And we hope to invite you in one of our future episodes for this program.
why not? I'm just a phone call away. And thank you very much for the opportunity to again share with you some issues. And
Ambassador and former Congressman Apolinario Lozada. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Have a nice day. Yeah.